Hi everybody, welcome to another installment of Combs Teeny Tiny Town. Today, we're going to be using some big 6-axle beasts to move some big freight around Combs Teeny Tiny Town, which, as I've talked about in the past, has some pretty tight curves. I think at best, these are really 18-inch curves. But I want to show you how I found a way to keep the big freight moving and do my best to have a modern layout with some of the big freight that we see on the tracks today. Hope you'll enjoy this episode of Combs Teeny Tiny Town. If you like what you see, don't forget to like and subscribe. And always, we appreciate your comments. So let's have a closer look at what kind of big freight we're moving around the tracks today. Okay, so let's have a look at the big iron pulling our big freight around the track today. So this is a Montreal Locomotive Works M630, which is a 6-axle diesel electric locomotive painted in the CP multi-mark scheme. Now this is a pretty big and long locomotive. I'm really pushing the limits of my tight curves here by using this. But as you can see, it can make the journey around the tracks, although it is pretty tight on some of these curves. All right, so following that is another Bowser locomotive. This is an SD40, 6-axle beast painted in the Canadian Pacific golden beaver logo scheme. Again, 6 axles. It's pretty long. It's probably about as long as the other one. And I've got them paired up, and I'm pulling some freight around the tracks as well. So what I've got attached here, I have, this is an Atlas model railroad, 60-foot high cube boxcar, painted in the BNSF scheme. And then I also have, also by Atlas model railroading, another 60-foot high cube boxcar. And then behind that, I have several Rapido in the full-size 53-foot well cars. This one in TTX colors with some of their these temperature-controlled containers, sold also by Rapido. Following that, I've got the same Rapido 53-foot well car in the CP rail scheme with some, I think these are just Walther's containers, one in a CP scheme, the other in Canadian Tire, ubiquitous here in Canada. And then behind that, I've got another one in the Canadian Tire EMP containers. And here, the last of the Rapido 53-foot well cars, this one with the BNSF and JB Hunt containers that came, they actually came with the cars when they were purchased. They came bundled with those containers. Okay, so another Atlas 60-foot high cube car. And now this here is probably the longest thing I have on the railroad. This is a Walther's mainline, 72-foot long center beam car for carrying various lumber products. And this is a mainline unit, so it has a little less detail than some of the other cars on the track. But it's the longest thing I think I own at 72 feet. And then lastly, an Atlas ready to roll 60-foot high cube boxcar as well in a BNSF scheme. Now this is actually the only of the cars that required a little bit of modification. So I'm just going to take the camera off its cradle here. And as you can see that I've had to actually chisel away just a little bit of material to provide a little bit more clearance for the trucks. All right, so this is something I hate to have to do it, but in order to make things work on my model railroading layout here, I had to do it. So I know the purists out there will say this is sacrilege, but I felt on an Atlas ready to roll, or pardon me, Athearn ready to roll car, pardon me, these are not expensive units, and they're really meant to run. They're not meant to be prototypical models, but they do have some nice detail. So as you can see, I'll just swing it around to the other end here. Again, you can see a similar kind of thing here where I've had to chisel away just a little bit of that material. Now, what I will get around to doing eventually is just touching that with just a spot of paint. And otherwise, it's really not noticeable unless you're right at ground level, taking a look at the cars as they go by, which really, for me, is not a huge consideration. But I get it. For those doing the prototypical modeling, this is a little bit of sacrilege. Okay, so as you can see, these guys are clearing that tight curve here. So we're just watching these cars swing around the curve here. And you can see they do look a little bit awkward swinging around like that. But overall, I'm just satisfied because they're running. They're running. This is great. Here's another view, rounding the curve. Look at that beautiful big iron pulling this modern consist of well cars, full-size well cars with 53-foot containers, and big 60-foot high cube box cars. Ooh, and that big 72-foot center beam. Watching it just curve around the corner. What a sight to see. So if you're wondering, can I run this kind of big freight on my layout? I guess the answer would be, yeah, you can. You might need to make a couple of modifications here and there, but on the whole, it works. So let's just watch as this plays us out. All right. Thanks for watching, everybody. Hope you have a great Sunday or a great day, whatever you're watching. And keep on railroading.